Hi there, welcome back. I'm Steve Bronstein from Blackthorn Forge in Marshfield, Vermont. I was, the last time I was working on a piece of steel and I forged a point on it, and now we're going to continue and I'm going to make a little heart-shaped hook. So the metal's hot, and I'm going to flatten the end out. I've made a lot of these. It's flattened out, back in the fire. And it's taken me a long time to figure out the right order of operations. Um, while that's heating up, you might wonder, how does somebody become a blacksmith? Why would somebody become a blacksmith? Um, so, as a kid, I was not artistic. I didn't draw. I don't have any art background. Um, I did like tinkering and just taking things apart, put them together. I wasn't particularly good at it, but I liked it. And I'm old. I was born in '57, so I had just caught the end of the hippie era. So that sort of back to land movement. I was too young for that, but it was somewhere in the back of my head, that mindset. And it was the beginning. That was the time when I was a teenager where people were um, learning old time crafts, things like that. And so that was just in the back of my head. Went to college, got a bachelor's of biology, graduated from college, moved to Vermont, and I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there, but I knew there was a medical school somewhere. I was 21. That's as far as I thought about it. And I knew I could get a job there. Moved to Vermont, found the medical school, got a job in a lung physiology lab, and that was a mechanical kind of science. And part of my job was to help build and use the apparatus in the lab, which brought me into contact with glass blowers who did laboratory work and machinists, and I was definitely fascinated by what these people were doing. The metal's hot, I got to go to work. I flattened it out, now I have to chisel down the middle. Notice, I'm not hitting really hard. Blacksmithing is the art of gentle persuasion. I don't want to beat the heck out of it. I'd like to do nice work, have it be slightly refined. I don't want to get too carried away. That's now cold, back in the fire. So, I got this job in a lab, and there was a weekend workshop being offered in local continuing ed called the Church Street Center in Burlington, Vermont, and their local blacksmith had a weekend classes that they were offering. So I took that, thought it'd be fun, um, made a poker. It took me 8 hours to make a poker. It was incredibly difficult, and I loved it. You got to play with fire, you got to get dirty, and make things. And oh, it was like, sign me up. That was the coolest thing. Of course, this is before the internet, so you have to remember that. There was no internet, so how do you become a blacksmith? You go to the library. You get books on how to be a blacksmith. And in fact, there were books available. Um, because blacksmithing was one of the industrial arts, a lot of information was written down. So that's what I did. Let me grab a tool. So I got books on how to be a blacksmith and started. And I'll continue in a minute. Hold on. Time to go to work. All right, now I have a really good groove established, so now I can hit a little harder. Not quite. One more heat. So I had my books in the library, and I set up a shop in a friend's garage, and I saw in the newspaper there was an ad, the Shovel Museum. They had a working blacksmith shop. They needed a blacksmith. I went, oh, okay, I can do that. And so I called them up. I got an interview, brought my poker. I wasn't totally honest. I said, here's my poker. Here's a sample of my work. I have other things, but here's a piece that I did. I got the job. I don't know how many other people were applying, but I got the job. Turns out they just needed a warm body to keep a fire going in the shop and talk to visitors. So I could handle that, and that was in February. Museum opened in May. February, March, April, May. Oh, I got plenty of time to learn how to do this. Being 21, that's ignorance is bliss. So that was my plan. Strike while the iron's hot. Get to work. I have another story about that. There we go. One more. Okay. So now I have a V-shaped split back in the fire. So, February to May. Every day I'd come home from the lab, take off my lab coat, put on a leather apron, go out in the garage and practice and try to learn what I needed to know. Museum opens, I show up, I bring my books, walk to the shop, put my books on the shelf there, the museum opens. And what happened was, and by that point, I could make hooks and simple things. I had that covered. Make a nail, I knew how to do that. Visitors would come in and see me working. They go, oh, well, how do you do this? And how does this work? And they started asking me questions. And they'd ask me a question, and I'd look at them and I'd go, I don't know. And I'd go to my library, take the book, open it up. It's kind of like you're trying to learn how to cook, you have joy of cooking. Open up the book, and I didn't have any pretense that I knew what I was doing. So with the visitors' help, it got me to go through all my books and learn. And every day somebody would ask me a new question, and I'd go, I don't know, and I'd figure it out with my books. And by the end of the season, every day on the job training, I had learned enough that I knew I wanted to keep going. And that's what I did. My timing was perfect. Let me put this down. It was the beginning of the craft movement. This is now 1980. And the craft fairs were happening. Craft shops were opening. People were developing an increased interest in crafts. And that world was developing as I was, and we were all learning it together. And I was really lucky. So that I found craft fairs, and I figured out how to set up a booth and make things, and what do people want to buy, and what people do not want to buy. There was a lot of failure. And that was part of it. That was also part of the fun. I was living like a dirtbag, and I didn't care. I thought it was the best thing in the world. And somehow it all worked out, and here I am 40 years later, and I'm still happy when I get up in the morning and go to work. See, I'm not hitting it hard. I want it to be hand forged, not beaten. I want it to be delicate. I want it to look pretty. I'd like to have some elegance to it. Bring them together. And there we go. Let me bring this close. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe like that. So there's my little heart. And lucky me, I got to be a blacksmith. I'm going to finish this later on, and I will see you again.